Welcome in, Ben. I think we're about good to go. Oy vey, it's been a day. I'm tired, not gonna lie. Tuesdays are always a bit rougher just because it's trash day. But I can get into that once we actually get into the game, which is gonna be nice and chill. Let me get it running and kill the music. God, it's been forever since I played this. Nice and chill and simple. No. Let me see. Options. Let me get the... Okay, left flipper, yes. Right flipper... Shit, that's not what I wanted. Options, okay. Here, edit. Left flipper. Left button. Right flipper, right button. Oh, okay, that's what it is. Okay, so let's make it... Shoot. Where are the other two? That's select, okay. Ooh. I'm sorry to hear that, man. Were they frozen, like, cold, or frozen as, like, stiff? Like, they couldn't... You couldn't get them to work. Okay, so this is left button, this is right button. Tilt left, tilt right, tilt up. I think we're good. Actually, you know what? There we go. Let's try that. We can always come back and edit it later. Ah, that stinks. Hopefully it's not something. It'll be something that like goes away soon enough. Yeah, my main thing was somebody forgot to break down cardboard boxes when shit. Ah, shit. All right. Yeah, I've done that before. So yeah, we had a whole bunch of cardboard boxes. And nobody broke them down. So I was asked to break down, like, had to be a dozen different cardboard boxes so that they could fit in the recycling dumpster. Shit. So completely out of my wheelhouse is just something that had to be done, and I'm kind of the lowest rung on the totem pole. I kind of do all of the manual necessities that are needed. Come on. So between that and having to do my own trash tonight, I've just been kind of stiff. That's why that's why I moved the schedule around so that I would do the normal streams start streaming on Wednesday, because every time I tried to stream on on Tuesdays, I would always feel too tired. But I figured, like, adding in, like, a chill, like, not low intensity, stream would be nice and a nice way to get an extra stream in. Yeah, shit. Yeah, no major concern. Like game-wise, like not even gonna try and worry about filling out the Pokédex or getting high scores or anything. Just nice, chill, whatever stream. Oh, fun. That's always fun. Let's see. God, I haven't played this series in well, no, I think I did a test stream on YouTube with the Game Boy version. But it feels like forever just because Nintendo hadn't done shit with the property since this game came out. There we go. Yeah. Hopefully the new couch will be a bit more will be comfortable enough for you. That was the biggest problem I always had with this game, was getting the ball to go where I wanted it to. I always feel like it just kind of goes wherever it wants. You know, whereas, standard pinballs, you still have to follow a sense of physics. I can never tell how to... in fact, I don't even know if knowing how to play regular pinball even helps you in games like these. Uh-oh. Where are you dropping me? Where are you dropping me, Pelipper? Yeah, that'll happen. You can never quite tell what you'll end up with if you get things like secondhand. 30-second ball saver, 30-second ball saver, 90-second ball saver, upgrade, time bonus, Pika, bonus challenge, extra. Okay, we'll get the 60-second ball saver. I haven't watched any new movies in almost a week. That's the other problem I've been neglecting. I think I've just been burnt out overall. My job is, it's only 4 hours, it's part-time, so it's not like the high-intensity, hours or anything, but it still takes a lot out of you. It's still, like, a lot of walking around, a lot of doing things. Especially considering that, for the most part, most of my jobs were stationary. Where are we going? Are we going somewhere? We may not be going anywhere, because I can't get the ball to do shit. There we go. Sure, we'll travel. That's right. Volpe and Illumis paint the new picture. Forgot they did that. This really is a nice improvement over the first one. Got parallax scrolling. You got cool new animations. I really do wish they do like a, not even like a 3D version. Like, I don't need it to be 3D, but even like a nice animated new virtual eShop game for Pinball would be amazing. Ooh. I was going for the Evo, but 10 coins is nice. What else was going on today? Like that was the big stuff, was the just trash at work I had to take care of, and trash at home I got to take care of. And I have been pretty Like I've been wanting to watch Prey. I haven't done that. I've been wanting to watch They Them, because I've been hearing bad things about it, and I wanted to see how bad. There's been a bunch of bad movies like that. A bunch of the Netflix releases have been god-awful. Like, they had a weird, like, love story between a liberal woman and a conservative guy, and apparently it's just absolutely god-awful. And, like, the actress has to come out and defend the movie's existence, even though it's just abject. Like, I watched KDJD break it down, and it's just abjectly garbage. It's just not a good movie. Like, the politics aside, it just looks like a very cheap, not very good movie. So, I mean, there's a whole bunch on Netflix. I haven't watched anything of that's the thing, is I kind of gave up on Netflix earlier this year, just in trying to I found no reason to try and keep up with them, just because they put out so much garbage. And by the time the latest Ricky Gervais special dropped, I'm just like, fuck it. Why do I even care? I would cancel my Netflix subscription if I wasn't the base account for my family. I don't even like using their UI, honestly. I've always found it to be a pain in the ass to try and use. Mainly because they bury anything new that comes out and they release so much stuff all the time that it's hard to keep up with when new things come out. We got this feel. We have the child. We have to get the child. We need to go acquire the child. Collect the child. We has this feel. We has the round child. So yeah, yeah, there's apparently a lot of the worst stuff of the year is coming out on Netflix. Or just streaming in general, because that They Them movie came out on Peacock. So it's, but I just have no desire to try and keep up like I used to. Whereas before, you know, like when I was doing movie reviews as a podcast, ooh, do we want to do Spiel or Clamperl? Spiel or Clamperl? We'll do Clamperl. We'll see which one we get. I think it's going to be random. Exactly. NBC did not think that one through. Their NBC... Why would they lean into the NBC part when they're NBC Universal? They could literally lean into the Universal part. Ah, jeez. Well, let it be known that media executives were never the brightest bunch. Just look at David Zaslav. Here we go. Let's see who we get. Huntail. And now we're going where the ghosts are. I did like these mini games too. Like the Meowth one. Like, that would be wild if they actually did an upgraded remake of the original Pokemon Pinball and did it as, like, even just DS grade animation and graphics. Come on. Oh, you're Spooderman in the PC release? The remaster they did? That's the thing I forgot. You gotta hit Dusclops from the back, because he'll throw the Pokeball back at you if you use it from the front. If you hit him from the front, or I guess it depends. As long as he's just not prepared. As long as you don't hit him dead center. Ah well. Okay, yeah. I need to pull out my PS4. I wanted to play Stray on it or something, but I haven't pulled that thing out in years. I don't even know if it still works. God, there's got to be so many updates on it. Because I've been sitting on... I was wanting to do Xbox because the Xbox Live Pass, Xbox Online Pass or Game Pass that they have, but I needed the Xbox to serve as the sort of media center for, like, if we want to watch DVDs or something. Then I remembered, oh wait, the PS4 is down here. That's right. I just haven't touched it in forever, so I think after KOTOR, or I guess maybe for one stream I'll see what all I have on my PS4 and what I can get on the online. Need to dust it off, literally dust it off. Yeah, man. We're almost there. Come on. Come on. You can never get the ball to do what you want it to do. Ball just does whatever it likes. But yeah, I wouldn't mind playing. That's the other thing too, is I don't know how well my computer would even capture PS4 graphics. Like, it does fine enough for the Switch. I don't know how well it would do for the PS4. There's one. There we go. Oh, now it's that one. Once I've already got it out in the open, that's when the ball decides to go up the ramp and into the bumpers. What else has been going on? Yeah, get the Pikas. There we go. Now I don't have to worry about either of those sides. What else? What else has been... God, what else has been going on? Oh, that's the one weird thing I noticed recently was on my TikTok, the one video that's done really well is the DC League of Super Pets. And I have no idea why. Like, why DC League of Super Pets? And my only idea is that it's because TikTok gears so young, leans so young in the user base that, you got a bunch of preteens and young, and, smaller kids wanting to see videos on DC League of Super Pets because it's the new, currently in theaters kids movie du jour. And it might be because of Dwayne Johnson and Kevin Hart. I don't know. I don't know how big their draw is on TikTok. Or how many people... I don't even know how good the movie's doing, honestly. For all I know, the movie could be sucking. Shit. Oh well, bye Pichu. So yeah, like, I'm halfway to 1,000 views, which is unheard of for any of my content. And it's the frickin' DC League of Super Pets TikTok where I review the movie and point out that, like, these characters are older than I am. Not the everything everywhere all at once. Not the one where I... Oh, for fuck's sake. Alrighty, we are going to call ourselves... This is Bort's run. Bort did that. I'm gonna swap back over to Ruby this time. So yeah, my DC League of Super Pets TikTok is blowing up, and I have no idea why. And of course, blowing up for me is just 500. It's like 550 views. But that just goes to show like how long, you know, for as long as I've been making content, almost 1,000 views is consider, you know, is what I consider blowing up. But I mean, that's like 90% of content creators, honestly. Like, you consider how many people actively make content online and how much of it just literally goes unseen just because people watch basically the 10% of the ones that actually got famous. So I mean, like, you figure there's got to be like thousands of channels with like single digit, maybe double digit views on their content. And I'm one of them. I'm not. I'm surprised they brought back Chikorita for this. And Cyndaquil. Like this... Like, I don't even think you could get them in Gen 3 outside of Coliseum. What do we got? We got the Pikas. Yeah, honestly, I'm not even good enough at regular pinball to know if I'm doing anything correctly. I'm just hitting the ball and hoping it goes somewhere good. Come on. I'm trying to think what else has been going on lately. Yeah, instead of like new releases, I've actually been rewatching older stuff. Like, I mentioned online that I was getting a bout of the sad brains, which is how I refer to a point in, because being on the spectrum, I will get overstimulated by things ranging from the temperature outside to whether or not I've sweated. You know, if I've been sweating, that can play into overstimulation. You know, then there's other things like sound, light, various other stimuli. And so one thing I've finally started to catch on to is that a lot of times when I get that sad brain going, it's not because of anything like, you know, it's not, you know, it's mainly because of overstimulation. It's big, you know, it's delved in overstimulation more than anything else. Ooh, okay. Interesting. That's right. That's how you get Evo. Comment. And so, like, the other night I had a bout of the sad brains from overstimulation. Ooh, we got upgrades. Right now, a great ball. Shit. Oh, there goes Pichu. And so, in lieu of doing anything productive, I just watched a bunch of classic movies. I've been on a real kick of, and I think I wonder how much of it part of it is just the neurodivergent is just being on the spectrum that I've kind of, because that's the thing I'll do too is I'll listen to like the same song, the same bunch of songs over and over again on my Apple Music. And just those songs. You know, I won't listen to like a station or anything like that. I'll listen to just those songs over and over again. And so I've been on and YouTube kind of feeds into that because their algorithm will sooner make you rewatch something you've already watched than it will show you something new. Because at least knowing that you watched it means you might watch it again, and that will keep you on the site longer. Because everything's run by algorithms. So yeah, on YouTube I just end up watching the same dozen videos over and over again. But I've been on a kick lately of rewatching Lady and the Tramp, Fox and the Hound, and then every so often I'll throw in Robin Hood. I threw in The Great Mouse Detective at one point, but a lot of that later silver Disney era, not the golden. You know, the only one for the golden era I'll really watch is Bambi, which is my favorite. I don't really go back to Pinocchio. Sometimes Fantasia. In fact, I might watch Fantasia tonight. But I don't really go back to Snow White. I don't really go back to Pinocchio. I don't really go back to Dumbo either. You know, but I'll go back to Lady and the Tramp. I'll go back to Robin Hood. I'll go back to, like, the post-Walt stuff. Some of the post-Walt stuff. To, like, like, right before the Renaissance stuff. But I never really rewatch any of the Renaissance stuff, which is stuff I actively grew up on. I don't know what it is. I think it's... I think since my original binge through the canon, I kind of preferred that sort of, like, later Walt era stuff. I think I just like... those era stuff more than the more modern ones. Oh, that's how you get the upgrade. Okay, then. So yeah, I've been basically binging over and over again Lady and the Tramp and Fox and the Hound mainly. And then sometimes I'll throw in Bambi. Sometimes I'll throw in Robin Hood. One time I threw in The Great Mouse Detective. But yeah, it's not like I'm watching anything new. And so in the meantime, whole swaths of new releases have passed me by. Like, I've missed out on Prey. I've missed out on... Well, not missed out on. They're not going anywhere. But I haven't been keeping up with it. Like, I didn't go see Bullet Train. I didn't go see... I didn't go see, the one that came out, this last weekend was that Cujo, but in Africa with a lion. So it's like, and I could do a TikTok about it. Because it talks about a couple of movies, I could mention a couple of movies that I actually like, Ghost in the Darkness and, Cujo, and how, like, it's Ghost in the Darkness meets Cujo. Essentially, I don't even know if the movie's any good. I just know Idris Elba and Sharlto Copley are in it. But I haven't gone to see it just because I've been sitting at home. I mean, granted, I'm doing a lot more with the streaming, so that takes out, you know, good chunk of hours. And I think what it just comes down to is I'm burnt out. And a lot of people are burnt out. We're in a point in time where just everybody is burnt out. But I think ultimately what it comes down to is I don't exactly have the capacity to be a full-time content creator. Just because I can't keep up. The requirements needed to keep up. I think this stems from something I learned long ago, was why I would be terrible in sales. Because you're expected to always be on, to always be selling yourself, to always be pushing yourself and pushing to get somebody to buy. You know, you have to be charismatic and convincing, and it's just like, that's a lot of work for like no gain. I never saw any positive aspect to salesmanship, because you're basically convincing somebody to waste their money against their own interests in order for you to take their money. And that just kind of seems like a terrible thing to do. To be like, hey, you should give me your money for this thing you don't really need. I mean, sometimes they do need it. I mean, it's not like there aren't sales people for things that people actually need, like, you know, vehicles, beds, that sort of thing. But like, I could never do, like, one of the big jobs that always was be available every time I was in between jobs was like, hey, you know, you could always go door, you know, basically it was all MLM shit. But you know, those sales jobs were always there, trying to entice you into joining them. Like, hey, you can make your own hours. How much you make is up to you. You know, they know exactly how to sell it to make it appealing to you. And the thing I could always got caught up on was I am terrible at, well, one thing, time management, but I'm also terrible at trying to convince people to do something for me. I cannot convince people to do things for me. You know, like I couldn't convince, I probably couldn't convince people to do something that they were already planning to do. Honestly, I'm just not that kind of personality. I don't have that kind of, you know, way with people. And so I think that I love the creativity aspect of content creation. I've always loved that. But the part that the reason I don't think I've succeeded for as long as I've been trying it, go over 10 years. No, this would be the 10th year I've been trying it. Because during the anniversary, I went back to some of my old stuff from 2012. But for as long as I've been making stuff, the reason I haven't succeeded is because I just don't have that drive, that will to always be out there pushing for the next eyeball, pushing for the next thing. Like, always got to be doing the next thing. I don't have that sort of capacity within me. I'm not gonna try and convince somebody to go watch. I'm doing the promo stuff. The self-promo I'm starting to get the handle on. But I don't really promote the podcast as much outside of Radio Dead Air. Radio Dead Air is kind of like the main place I promote outside of posting when new episodes go live on Twitter. And on our Facebook page, which I don't post on. I'm terrible at doing things like that. In fact, I should probably look into getting a social media manager for it at some point, but that would cost money, and that's money I don't have. Because the podcast doesn't make that much money. In fact, that much, it doesn't make any money. Like, even when we were trying to do a Patreon before the big hiatus, we didn't make all that much money. And honestly, I don't know if Patreon's the right way to go about it anymore, because Patreon, while it seems to be still the go-to for most creators, it's kind of, started to shit the bed a little bit in terms of, like, getting in bed with NFTs at one point. Not being as viable an option for money making as it started out to be. Trying to make more of its users than they're raking in themselves. So I don't even know if we do another Patreon at some point. Might have to talk to the co-host and see for sure, but I just never been good at that stuff. It's just never come naturally to me. I've never been somebody to be like, hey, do this thing. Hey, I've never wanted, I've wanted to create. I've always wanted to create, but I don't want to sell. I don't want to, I don't want to harass people, essentially. And that's all I feel like sales is harassing people. Like, go harass this person and bother them until they give you money. That's how I see sales. And, I would probably never tell my dad that because he's been a salesman his whole life. But, like, that's how I always felt. I've always felt like sales was just needlessly harassing people to get money out of them. Like, ultimately, what's the only difference between sales and panhandling is, at least with sales, you're sometimes guaranteed a, let's see, this time we'll make the name, oh, duh. This win was for Fart. Fart did that. Um, but yeah, like I think that's the aspect I didn't until I was like 5 years into, maybe 10 years into content creation, that I realized that, oh wow, nah, the reason I not succeeding at this is because I'm not constantly pushing myself to be out there all the time. And you kind of have to initially. You kind of have to be annoying and be out there in order to get people's attention. Unless you're one, somebody who's got like just buckets of money at your disposal. Which is why I think that's one of the problems I've seen in the VTuber community is independent young creators are trying to compete with corporate-backed creators, and it's like, you do not have the resources to keep up with a corporation. And you probably never will. So don't try, so much of my timeline is other indie creators trying to be like, hey, you don't have to sink your life savings into trying to pay for a live 2D model. You don't have to sink all your money into this art in order to try and get into VTubing. You just need to you can cobble stuff together for free and just get started. That's the other thing too with content creation and VTuber, the young up-and-coming VTubers that have not delved into content creation before, because that's the thing, is a lot of what people don't realize is a lot of the VTubers working today are actually, when you realize who they are behind the scenes, you realize how long they've been in the business, and so they're familiar with how content creation goes, with how marketing yourself goes, with all of that, and so they know the ins and outs of it, and for a lot of VTubers, they actually had a leg up because they could get started. They could get started on content creation before the rest of us, so we're not seeing their awkward years, the awkward years where they're making cringe content for the most part. We're seeing them once they've already hit it big, but we're not seeing the scuffed Vroid models or PNGs a lot of the time. Because they've been working so hard that they've either been discovered by a big group like VSojo, or they've auditioned and become part of a group like Niji Sanji or Hololive. And so now that they've already got that backing, they've already got their scuff years out of the way. Now they're, now you can actually, that's not what I wanted. Now you're seeing them with you're seeing their stream, but you're not seeing, their assistants behind the scenes. They'll mention they'll mention their managers, but you don't see the artists that the company hires to make all the art. You don't see like the training that goes into like the dance sequences for like the idol stuff. You don't see the vocal lessons that they go into for hours in order to sing these songs. Nobody sees the actual hard work part of it. They only see the end product, and so as they're going through the hard work part of it, they're thinking it'll never be as good as the end product, but they're not seeing everybody. I think that's the biggest problem with media and content creation, especially like social media, is people see the end products, they never see the hours of work that went into making said end product. And the fact that a lot of times it's not, people who seem to be like just one person are actually whole teams of people. Their social media, singular people have social media managers to help them out. They have, people to help carry the load. And they're not seeing the part where other people are helping carry the load. They're just having to carry the load all themselves. And, you gotta help people understand that, no, like, this isn't a one, a lot of the times, these aren't one-person shows. A lot of the time, these things are multi-person, entire productions. It'd be like seeing a production of Les Mis and thinking, oh man, this one-man show is incredible. But it's not a one-man show. It's an entire ensemble of people working together in order to make this thing work. So you need to realize that these aren't one-man show. These aren't one-person shows. These are major productions with crew and all kinds of people working behind the scenes that you're not seeing. And I think the not intentional deception, mind you, but there is a deception and a facade to it, to a lot of content creation. Because if you're like me and you grew up back in the days of like that guy with the glasses, or the early days of YouTube, when it was basically just one-man shows, you never, it was just one person doing it all, and then you never really got the chance to see them add people behind the scenes. I will say one of the nice things about Game Grumps, even though I've been terrible at keeping up with them, is lately, especially in the last couple of years, Dan and Aaron have been super good about acknowledging just how many people are working for them and how many people it takes in order to get their videos out, run everything that needs to be done. They were always big on like, oh, Barry's our editor, and then it was Kevin, and then Super Mega guys, Matt and Ryan, and I forget who their editor is now, but they'll go through editors all the time, because even their editors would go on to become bigger personalities and go on to do bigger things. Barry's being his own streamer. Super Mega's making their own content, I think. I don't know if they're still making their own content. But, these guys who started off as just friends of Dan and Aaron, who were good at editing and could edit for them, then, were employed by them, and then went on, and then as they got bigger, they went on to do their own things. And so, but Dan and Aaron have been constantly shouting out, Allie and, the various, just whole, all kinds of people working with them behind the scenes nowadays. And I think that's a good thing, because it's like, so often you don't see creators even acknowledge that they have anybody else working for them. There's this, there's this facade that they all kind of put on, that it's like, oh, I'm doing this all by myself. This is a one-man show. But there's, sometimes half a dozen to a dozen people working behind the scenes that you have no idea about. All kinds of people doing all kinds of jobs, lightening the load for the star. So all you see is the person on stage. You don't see all the different kinds of people working behind the scenes. And I think VTubing is having that same problem. People think, like, oh, I gotta be like these big names like Maury and Melody and I don't know much about Haruka. I know she's independent. I know she's not affiliated with any group that I know of. But I know that I don't know how much is her behind the scenes. That's someone I don't know, because that could be, because Haruka could very well be someone with just that mega work ethic that's always trying to do stuff. But she seems to be more like me in that she's great at the creative stuff. She's great when she's on stream. She's great when she's doing stuff, but she's not like the one to like go in and sell herself, go on and sell herself to be like promote this thing, do this thing, manage the social media. I don't know how much of that aspect of the business is her, or if does she have people helping her. That I don't know. I also know that there's a couple of VTubers, Sugi Aoka? She just had a name change and a redesign. She used to go by Sugoi, but I think she's Sugi now? Anyway, she has a whole, like, company of that just manages other VTubers. And it's like, yeah, that's a whole business side of things that people don't even realize is a thing, because they think it's all one-person shows. And people need... And it's nice to see that there are, you know, that Sugi and Teddy and that whole company, I don't remember what it's called. I don't remember what their management company is called, but it's nice that they're like, hey, this is a business side of things. We're good at that. Let us do that for you. Unfortunately, I don't know how much their services cost, because I'm assuming it costs something. It has to cost something. They don't offer those services for free. I don't know if it's money off, if they take the 10% off the money off the back end, like normal managers, or if they're wanting upfront fees. I've never actually talked to Sugi about that, or Teddy. In fact, I barely talked to them at all. I'm terrible at interacting with people, which makes this whole thing even harder, because so much of this job, quote unquote, so much of if you want to do content creation for a living is networking. And if you're not the one networking, then somebody has to network. Somebody has to help get your name out there to other creators, to other audiences. Somebody has to help you network if it's not you. And I suck at networking. I've always been a creative mind. I've never been a business-minded person. Which, honestly, a lot of people would probably say that's a good thing, because, you know, I'm not a sociopath. But, not to disparage anybody working in business, but I think it takes just a slight bit of sociopathy to kind of get into business, at least on the higher scale level. Not on the, like, the smaller scale local level, or on, like, the independent, like, small business type owner. You're not like a massive sociopath in that regard. It's more of like the corporate side of things. You kind of have to be a sociopath, because corporate business is just absolute insanity. And I can't believe anybody can survive in that environment, just because everything about it seems like hell. Although, given Japanese workers' burnout rates, I don't think they are surviving. I think they're scraping by the skin of their teeth. But yeah, I just never had the mindset for business, for, you know, promoting myself any more than, like, natural, like, you know, I know I've gotten better at knowing that part of it is getting yourself out there to other creators. And I've thankfully done a bit of that. You know, I've done a couple of collabs. You know, I've networked. Thankfully, I already had somebody in this community before, that I knew before the community existed, that I could that helped me kind of get my footing. But even now, it's just like, it's hard. It's really hard to try and do all that. And I think what people are finally coming to grips with is that, yeah, of course it's hard, because I'm not neurotypical. This is something that comes more natural to you if you're neurotypical a lot of the times. So when you're on the autism spectrum, when you have ADHD, and you have these, when you're neurodivergent, then you have problems with these sort of things. You have you have what's it called? Not executive dysfunction, but like, you basically struggle with managing yourself, managing your time, managing stuff for your life. And especially since life is so, a lot of times, needlessly complicated. Whoop. That's right, he freezes the ball if you're not careful. And he also gets caught in whirlpools. So yeah, I just, it's been 10 years in content creation. I'm only now starting to get the hang of it. I've been doing this for a year. I've been doing the podcast for a couple years now, and I was doing podcasting before VTubing. And I got burnt out of that too, just because I was terrible at networking myself. And I think it's a lot harder to network with podcasts than it is to network with VTubing, because VTubing at least has kind of these central hubs that you can network in. Podcasting is kind of what's the word for it? Podcasting is kind of fractured. Like, there's no one place to go in order to network your podcast. You kind of have to go all over the place. Whereas VTubing, you can network you can mainly network on TikTok, Twitter, and Discord servers. Maybe on the subreddit. But there's central hubs and especially since people will come to those places to find new content creators, whereas nobody goes to like the podcasting subreddit to find new podcasts. They basically only find out about new podcasts from like collaborations and like guest appearances on other people's podcasts. And when you get big enough that you actually hit the front page of iTunes or Amazon or Spotify. So there's no real means of networking besides being as many places as you can. Being in people's subreddits, being in people's Facebook pages and groups and whatnot. It's a lot harder to network for podcasting than it is for VTubing. VTubing is at least centralized, which is nice. But even then, like, it's a lot harder to network than people realize. And especially if you're like me and you just kind of like being alone. You kind of like not talking to anybody. Which is the odd thing about streaming, is I think it's mainly because there's not another person here besides chat. It's different when you're talking to nameless, faceless, well, not nameless, but faceless text on a screen versus a living body, you know, a second voice that's there. An image, you're seeing somebody in the flesh, or you're seeing them on a screen. It's a lot different when it's just text on the screen. And I think that's why I gravitated towards streaming a bit, because, I mean, for one thing, I think I've mentioned this before. I don't know if I've mentioned this on stream before, but I definitely have brought it up before in places. The reason I went into VTubing, particularly, was I had burnt out on the movie review podcast that I was doing, and so I tried switching over to YouTube, and I burnt out on that super quickly. That was right during the pandemic too, so I got burnt out on that super quickly. And like by May I was kind of like done. And so around that time in the meantime, I had already discovered VTubing through Two Snacks' Corona short videos. And so I already knew about VTubing, but then I realized that the friend I mentioned before, was getting into it, and I was like, wait, I can do this? And I started with a Vroid model. I made a Vroid model of basically myself with deer features, but I had used most of the default aspects of Vroid in order to do it. I could probably show my Vroid model at some point. You know, if somebody wants to see that Vroid model, I can always like post an image of it online, or so people can see like where I initially started. And in fact, I don't even know if I think that stream is gone. My initial streams, and the friend that friend in question can attest to it. I think they were there. It was scuffed to all hell, and I couldn't get anything to work. And it turned out I couldn't run. For Mac, the facial recognition software, the face capture software is 3Tene, 3Tene, and I couldn't run that and OBS at the same time and stream. So I was just my computer. That's when I realized, oh, my ancient ass, almost decade-old computer is just not capable of doing it with a 3D model yet. So I resorted to just using a PNG. Oh, I was just chit-chatting. I was just talking about all kinds of stuff. Just making conversation. Mainly what I've been saying, I was talking about how I'm kind of burnt out by a lot of stuff, and I've never really had the the personal drive to constantly be working on something. I don't have that Protestant work ethic. You know what it is? It's the Protestant work ethic. And the Protestants should not have set the standard for work ethic, because Jesus Christ, that Protestant, especially because it's not just Protestant, it's Calvinist. That's good. That's good to hear. I was going for the ball saver. But yeah, it's, oh, man. We'll do the Pika. That's one less thing to worry about. What was I saying, though? Yeah, I just don't have that... Because what it is, it's the Calvinist work ethic. It's not all Protestants, but a specific sect of Protestantism called Calvinism had this just absolutely ludicrous idea of work being... how much you work being a sign of how good of a person you are. And that Calvinist Protestant work ethic is the main focus and the main driver of how people are viewed as lazy. You know, so it's like, oh, you're poor? You must be lazy. Oh, you know, it can't possibly be the system it is terrible. It has to be that you aren't working hard enough. And that's what Calvinist work ethic does to a brain. It basically messes up your brain into thinking not working hard enough is, working is a virtue, that you have to work harder. Oh, neat. Wait, what's tomorrow night? Is that the finale? I am terrible at keeping up with shows, and MasterChef is one that's always kind of avoided my interests. Yeah, that mindset is kind of like what dictates... Oh, neat. It's what dictates how much people get in welfare versus... whether they even offer welfare... that's why so many of those, so many politicians, don't even want to offer welfare at all, because they think people just need to work harder. You just need to work harder. You're not working hard enough. No. Most of us are working harder than the people telling us to work harder. It's just... Oh, that's good for them. Yeah, that whole mindset has poisoned society into thinking, God forbid people aren't constantly working all the time and doing things and, providing their labor for somebody else. And we're finally reaching the point where people are burnt out on that. They can't take it anymore, which is a good thing because it was untenable to begin with. It was that's the whole thing, is like, everything about the way our society was built was untenable, and there were people who even knew it at the time. It's just they couldn't do shit about it. Like, they realized that the way, that was the whole, like, there was a thing I saw about, the, California water rights. It was John Oliver piece. And it's just like, even at the time, when you read what they came up with at the time, that it's still kind of in place, it's like, that's insane, and you've clearly overestimated how much water there is here. You're going to get people killed. Exactly. And that's the thing, is like, it's not about working hard. Like, that's the thing, is work is not a virtue. It's just a fact of life. You have to work. Some things require energy in order to do, and so you do them and you use your energy to do those things. But not everything should require, working hard shouldn't be a virtue. It should be, how much you are able to work is determined by how, by various aspects of your life. Whether you're physically able to, whether you're mentally able to. And because it's caked into religious dogma, ooh, new top score. Let's call it, I don't even know. I'm just making sounds. But yeah, that Calvinist, a work ethic came up with by religious leaders 500 years ago, or 600 years ago, has entirely ruined society, because it's been so, it's been so caked into the way that the people in charge view the rest of the world. And I think we're finally starting to break free of that mindset, because we're starting to realize, oh wait, this doesn't work. This is clearly not a sustainable model. And we're hopeful, and I mean, it's not all one-to-one. There's definitely still people with that caked-in nonsense because they grew up with it, and so they can't possibly imagine anything better. Oh wow, just automatically had one. Nice. Also, I'm cutting from I'm skipping past Bagon and going straight to Shelgon. I must be on Victory Road then. But yeah, part of the reason I can't keep up is because even the algorithms that are used to promote things on social media are built in with that Calvinist mindset of you should always be working harder. And so even when it's not specifically the religious angle of it, the mentality of you clearly aren't working hard enough has been so caked into people's psyches that they can't imagine the fact that some things don't happen because of work. They happen because of chance or networking, who you know. So to them, it's just like, well, I worked where I got to get where I'm at, but a lot of times you didn't really. Most of the times you just were the right place at the right time to get the job, and then you were at the right place at the right time with the right boss in order to go up in the ladder of that job. Not that work didn't have anything to do with it, but you didn't. But it had more. No one man is an island. A lot of things happen because of who you know and what you know, and just right people, right places, right times. And people seem to forget that fact. They love to see themselves as self-made, when really, if nothing else, like, the self-made man doesn't even make sense, because you wouldn't have made the money, like, selling something if it wasn't for other people buying things. So you weren't self-made. Somebody else already gave you their money. That's how you have the money. Like, how do you miss that aspect of it? Like, not just the people under your employment working for you to help you make the money faster, those people supplying you with stuff, like the whole chain to allow for you to get the money has hundreds, if not thousands of people, depending on how large the chain we're talking about is. And for people to claim, like, I made this money all by myself is such bullshit. Because the money clearly came from somewhere. You didn't plant the money and grow it into the money tree. You got it from other people. You either got it from banks, from investors, from customers. You got the money from somewhere. You didn't make the money yourself by printing it. You got the money from other people. So you clearly weren't self-made at all. There's an aspect of the self-made fallacy that hasn't been brought up. The fact that you can't make yourself, you know, a millionaire because you still need either investors or customers or, you know, banks to loan you the money in order to make the money. So you clearly didn't do it yourself at all. Like, you may have been the one to ask for the money or to sell people the things, but that's their money that you've made in compensation for something, either investment in your company or in trade for a good or service. Like, just the idea that anyone with a lot of money clearly did it all through hard work has just absolutely killed any sense of, like, really leveling the playing field, because you got people at the bottom thinking, well, if I work hard enough... No, you will never work hard enough. Because Jeff Bezos didn't make billions, and Elon Musk didn't make billions from working. They made it from having, you know, investments. Elon Musk had a leg up by having a rich-ass daddy who owned an emerald mine in apartheid-era South Africa. So let's not pretend that people worked hard to get some, you know, the people at the top, you know, were like magically working harder to get where they're, to get to that point. Most of them already had the leg up to begin with. Let's see, okay, there's the next one. You know, it's like Carlin said. Another thing I missed out is there's a HBO special on Carlin and, like, his legacy, and I want to watch it just to see how many people completely miss the point of Carlin. Because it's I think Jon Stewart hosted it or narrated it or something. I think Jon Stewart's involved in it, and I'm wondering how many comedians involved are going to try and twist it to make it be like, well, George Carlin was a provocateur, so being a transphobic bigot makes me like Carlin. When the whole point was Carlin was a provocateur against the people at the top, at the people with the power and the money. He's a provocateur against people who were wealthy and elite members of society. He was a provocateur. To the common person, he was just a dude talking like other dudes talk. You know, it's why he always punched up at politicians and at companies and at organizations and at wealthy people. He wasn't punching down at black people and gay people. Like, I remember, like, not every joke is held up, but but he did one where people were like, yeah, listen to him call out the feminists. And it's like, he still sides with the feminists. He's just saying, like, you know, not everything has to be gender. He was saying not everything has to be gender neutral, but in the age of non-binary people as well, like, having gender neutral ways of saying things is always a good idea. You know, instead of, congressperson, he went hyperbolic to be like, personhood. They want to call that thing in the whole, that was the whole bit, was that he was joking. They think he's being serious about the personhood cover when that was the hyperbole of the joke. The thing that made it humorous was he was being excessive in how he presented the argument. It's not a case of like he actually believes that it's a bad thing to have gender. Like he even says in the setup for the joke that he agrees with feminists on having gender neutral ways of saying titles and like job titles and descriptions. And that was the whole bit, was like he wasn't being serious, he was being hyperbolic about like that was always his whole thing, is like unnecessary changes in language to try and be more specific but also being less direct. Like his big thing was like post-traumatic stress disorder is a lot of things to say for what is for specifically shell shock. And his whole bit there is like at one point they called it operational exhaustion, and it's like the bit is that they're making words needlessly more complicated to try and be more specific when they just need to be specific enough to get the point across. Like, hey, at least, but like the post-traumatic stress disorder applies to things outside of battle now. It's just also applied to things, you get the condition whether it's from battle or from a traumatic experience. Any other kind, some kind of civilian traumatic experience. So, I mean, like, you can get the trauma from anywhere, but the whole point is that it's a post-traumatic, stress caused on by a traumatic event. In the aftermath of a traumatic event, you are dealing with the stress of that traumatic event, and that's why they're calling it that. It's very specific language, but it's also not very direct language. It's very clinical. And I think that was his point. And so my big concern when watching that documentary, let's see, we'll go with it. For this one, we'll go with... There we go. My big concern is that it's going to be a bunch of comedians talking about why can't I say the N-word on why can't I say the N-word? Carlin would be rolling in his grave. Why can't I call trans women? Why can't I misgender trans people and be an asshole on stage? Man, Carlin would be rolling in his grave about this cancel culture. Even though it's not really cancel culture, and somebody else pointed it out. Plenty of other comedians have pointed this out. It's not cancel culture, it's consequence culture. It's you are facing actual consequences for treating other people like shit. That's what it is. And when you've been in a place of privilege for so long, forget who it is that said it, but there's another person who said that when you've had privilege for so long, equality begins to look like your privilege is being taken away. It's the fallacy of like seeing rights and privileges as a piece of pie. And now that other people are getting pieces of pie, you're like, but that means I get less pie. And it's like, it's not, there's no like limited resource of, like giving people equal rights isn't, rights aren't like freaking a limited resource that's gonna run dry if we're not careful. Like, we're not gonna run out of rights. Like, we're gonna run out of clean water or something. Or we're gonna run out of food. It's not like a limited resource that runs out, right? Yeah, that'll happen to you. Welcome to the life of Spider-Man. but yeah, like, rights are not a thing that you run out of. Other people having more rights doesn't mean your rights suddenly went away and are gone now. And people are tricked a lot of times into thinking that way because somebody else, I mean, our own monkey brains are seeing like, hey, they're getting a thing, I want a thing. Why can't I get a thing? It's like, I remember they made a joke about this on South Park, I think. I'm pretty sure it was South Park that made the joke. But somebody had to give Eric, Eric's mom had to give him a present in order to prevent Eric from getting jealous of somebody else getting a present on their birthday. And like, that's what it is. It's a bunch of people thinking rights are something that they lose if somebody else gets it, when it's basically just like somebody receiving a gift on their birthday. Oh, hey, they're receiving this, but what about yours? You still had yours. It's like getting a PS5 for Christmas, and then when your friend gets a PS5 from somebody, you're like, but what about my PS5? Your PS5 didn't go anywhere. It was still right there in your room, but you have one now. Why can't I, why does he get one why does he get one? You literally already have one. Like, it's less tangible than that, but this whole idea that, like, people actually having rights dedicated to them and having, days dedicated to them, months dedicated to them. I'm gonna bring that up next time it comes up at home, because my mom, bless her heart, but every so often she will get all uppity about how, pride is happening. How come there's not a... she doesn't go full on, like, straight pride, but she did ask about German, because she's majority German prior to, like, early 19th century, like, even pre-Kaiser German, I think. Because they came over, like, really early on the not on the Mayflower. No Germans on the Mayflower. But, they came over, like, during the days of Ellis Island, so before anything... I'm sure, like, in the deep, weeds... Yeah, exactly. Timmy got more Reese's Pieces than me, but you already have Reese's... Exactly. It's like all of a sudden, Timmy doesn't have more, he just has some. It's people feeling like, well, we're not equal because they're having stuff. But yeah, but they didn't have any before. They literally had nothing before. Like, how like, we can't make this any clearer. They didn't have the thing before, they're having it now, now you're both equal. But no, they're getting it. They're getting it because they didn't have it. Hey. But yeah, ever saw, like, my mom did bring up, because her family is majority German. Why isn't there, like, a German history week or festival or honor? And it's like, we could literally tell you when it is. And it's like, just because somebody else is celebrating it doesn't mean you can't. You can celebrate it when it's your turn, because everybody literally has one! Pretty much every ethnic background has a heritage, time, month, week, day. They have dedicated times and holidays to celebrate their heritage. Do you really care about it, or are you just mad that somebody else gets a cookie today? Did you want an extra cookie because somebody else got one? I'm not gonna be that mean about it because it's my mom, and I think it's just her. And once again, it's not like her fault that she's thinking like that, because I mean, like, For one thing, the people up top want to make it seem like that because that keeps us bickering here at the bottom. But on top of that, it's also stupid monkey brain. Stupid meat sack full of electricity is stupid and easily tricked and easily fooled. And so you get somebody who doesn't get right, who hasn't had rights or, anything, finally starts to get protections. And because you've already had them in place, you think, well, they're getting them, which means I have to get them too. But no, you have them. You have it at home. Well, no, it's not fair. Yeah, this is literally we're literally making it fair. You don't actually care. You're just mad that somebody else is getting it. You're mad that somebody else gets to sit in the chair, sit in the big boy chair. And that's literally child monkey brain that's doing that, because kids go through that same thing. Kids go through that same thing of like, Mom, it's not fair. Mom, it's not fair. It's my turn on the Nintendo. Oh boy. Okay. There we go. Got him. Exactly. People are either trick themselves or mistakenly think that it's a limited resource when it's not. It's literally not that. It's somebody finally getting something that you literally already have, and you thinking, well, they have more now. They didn't have it before, but they have more now. And, it's that you have to overcome that fallacy of thinking that because somebody finally is starting to receive something that you've always had, doesn't mean that you've lost it. It means that they are gaining it and you're now equal. I saw a great poster, actually, years ago, where it was talking about the differences between equity, equality, and justice. And the image was of 3 people of varying heights trying to watch a baseball game over a fence. Equity means that everybody gets one soapbox in order to see over the fence. So you've got a super tall guy, you've got an average sized guy, and you've got a super short guy. And the super tall guy doesn't even need the soapbox. The super short guy is not able to see over the fence with the soapbox, but the average guy can see over the fence with the soapbox. So you've given them all the same thing. That's equity. Equality would be providing the shorter dudes with varying heights of soapboxes in order to each see over the fence. That would be equality. Everybody receiving the benefit equal to their need. Justice would be removing the wood fence that they have to look over and replacing it with a chain link fence that they can see through. So justice would be removing the obstacle that required them to have special provisions in place, period. And just making it easier for everybody to see. And that's kind of what we need, is to remove the barriers in place and just to make things have equal access to everybody. And that way we don't have to worry about, who's getting more stuff. Now everybody literally has equal access to the stuff. But but once again, they're going to come into people who no, it's not right because it's changing. And stupid meat sack that's got tasered, it doesn't like Stupid tasered meat sack doesn't like when things change. There's a better way. Nah, not tasered. Stupid electric meat sack. Yeah, stupid electric meat sack. Our brains don't like change. So they can't, so they don't like it when you change the system to be equal for everybody, because then it means they lost. Well, that means I have less now. No, we're literally all equal. We have literally equal access to the thing. But it's bad because I have less now, and you have to get past the stupid electrified meat sack monkey brain that's telling you that somehow have less, when that's literally not the case. I think that's the other thing I always worry about too is I get openly more political in my, not in every stream, but on Twitter especially. And I'm not afraid to address politics in my stream. I'm not afraid to address more controversial topics in my stream. For the most part, I'm not gonna get every controversial topic, but I'm not opposed to talking about it, because I would much rather use my platform to discuss these things rather than to keep silent about it. And that's it. The friend I've been bringing up, I'll just say it. It's Zenebi. Zenebi Ven, sweetheart alien variety streamer. She's just an absolute sweetheart. She's the one who helped me get into VTubing, who made me realize it could be a thing. Oh, that was something I mentioned. I had started the thought on and then lost my train. Was the reason I went with VTubing is because in those like 5 months that I was doing live action YouTube videos, I kind of developed a body dysmorphia. Not a major body dysmorphia, but just enough to be like, I don't like looking at myself. I hate looking at myself. I look like shit. I hate it. I hate it. I hate looking at myself. And so the VTubing provided an outlet where I could be creative while not having to deal with the dysmorphia. You know, it's why I tried to continue the movie reviews as a VTuber, but people weren't really tuning into those. Of course, I'd never really continued it, so I don't know if people would tune into them now. I don't know if they'd want a weekly segment. But when I polled people, they were much more interested in having individual video reviews rather than one long stream where I review a bunch of movies. So I think when it came to the people I polled, it was much more, they were much more interested in having the individual reviews available rather than have it be like one big long stream where I review it. And that's the one thing, like, I gotta hand it to Corey over at Double Toasted, is like, he's able to provide people that, oh yeah, that's the interesting thing, is like, there's actually science behind why you can't stand your voice. And a lot of it has to do with the fact that when you hear your voice naturally, it is through your own head. It's through your sinuses. It is through, you're hearing it you're hearing it from the inside, whereas when you hear it in a recording, you're hearing it from outside your head. So it sounds unnatural to you because you're hearing it the way other people hear it. Whereas you always hear your own voice the way, from within your own head, with your sinuses buzzing around and whatnot. So there's actually scientific reasoning behind why people hate the sound of their own voice, which I think is fascinating. But yeah, what was I saying? once again, lost my train of thought. Let's see, I was talking about the dysmorphia. And so, yeah, Zanebi helped me kind of figure out... She's the one who also helped me get into Vroid, because she made her initial model, and I think her current model even... I don't know if she commissioned somebody to help with her current model. I'd have to ask her. But I know her initial models and stuff she did all through Vroid. And so I was planning to do that, except my ancient ass computer is not built for it. So I couldn't do 3D, so I stuck with PNG. And so something Zanebi brought up was when I brought up the issue of VTubers are not utilizing their platform to talk about important subjects. You know, she brought up the fact that she doesn't, because for her, she saw VTubing as an escape outlet, as a means to escape from the harsh realities of the day and of the world. And so she didn't have to think about it, and that is entirely valid. She's entirely valid for not wanting to be, especially since she's never, as far as I've known her, she's never been. I am further behind on books than I am on movies, but I have heard that she was very vocal about her disdain for her abusive mother, and how some people were trying to turn that into, don't speak ill of the dead. And it's like, no, abuse victims can talk about their abusers however the hell they want. And Jeanette McCurdy's mom abused her, and if Jeanette McCurdy wants to say, I'm glad the bitch is dead, then let her be. However you deal with the trauma is however you deal with the trauma, as long as it's healthy. And I say there is nothing unhealthy about calling your abuser a piece of shit in life or in death. But yeah, so yeah, Zanebi is, and a lot of VTubers tend to be like Zanebi, where they don't want to rock the boat. They don't want to make people upset. They want to have fun. They just want to do this thing and have fun and be an outlet for people to just have fun. That's why a lot of people, one of my favorites who's on hiatus right now, a little Sugoi, she was very much that same mindset of, I'm not here. Of course. Wait, not the guy in charge of iCarly. Not the Nickelodeon guy, was it? Because I didn't read the memoir, but... Oh, I know she, doesn't name him outright legally, because she can't, because then it'd lead into slander and libel law. But she does everything but say his name. Yeah, exactly. In which case, yeah, fuck him, and I'm glad she calls him out too, piece of shit. Because clearly she wasn't the only victim. Not with him. I'm sure that guy has a fucking rap sheet. But, yeah, Sugoi was very adamant about not wanting to talk about, what do you call it, not wanting... Yep, I definitely heard that story about him. Back? Of course, there we are. Jesus. I think it might be time. I don't think it's just my computer that's ancient. I think I got my Yeti before I even started getting into podcasting, which is in 2016. And I think my Yeti might finally be getting too old. I don't know if it's the cord or if it's the Yeti itself. I am going to have to probably fine-tune it and play around and see see what the problem is. I may have to get some extra cords. Oh yeah, like Dan Schneider, I mean, on top of being a piece of shit, Dan Schneider's shows were just not funny a lot of times. A lot of times they were kind of creepy. In fact, most of the time they were kind of creepy. But nobody questioned it because apparently somebody up at Nickelodeon, I mean, his shows got the views. So nobody up at Nickelodeon really cared about him being a piece of shit and a creep. But yeah, before my microphone cut out, I was talking about Sugoi being somebody who's just not one to try and rock the boat. And she just wants to have, it's like she's not trying to piss anybody off. She's just trying to, you know, have fun with people. You know, it'd be like somebody, you know, I mean, that's the thing. That's why people are so hesitant to talk about politics, because most people just kind of crave, you know, peace. Not like, peace of mind, but like, passivity. They don't like conflict. And, you know, it kind of reminds me of, the Martin Luther King quote. Peace without justice is something or another. Basically saying, like, hey, if the peace comes at the cost of injustice... Yeah. That the peace is at the expense of justice, then it's not true peace. It's just, you know, tranquility. And I think people are, you know, kind of make that mistake that, like, politeness... You know, somebody... That was a great thread I saw on Twitter recently where some guy was like, hey, look, I went to dinner with these people who were literally in the Waffen SS. They were nice people. And it's like, yeah, bigots can be polite too, dumbass. Like, it's not the, you know, saying I went to dinner with former members of the Waffen SS isn't the slam dunk you think it is. You know, aren't I tolerant? I had dinner with, you know, members of the former members of the Waffen SS, and I didn't beat the ever-loving shit out of Nazi scum. But yeah, like, being polite is something bigots can do too. In fact, they thrive on it. I wouldn't know. I don't know much about iCarly. But I'm not surprised that they misrepresent autism. Most media misrepresents autism. I mean, hell, 2 years ago we had that fucking piece of shit Sia movie. But yeah, what was I saying? Yeah, like, having dinner with bigots, you know, just because they're, you know, doesn't make, you know, and be like, oh my god, they were so nice to me. Yeah, bigots act nice to people so that you don't recognize that they're bigots. It was the whole reason in Inglourious Bastards that Brad Pitt wanted to carve a swastika on Hans Landa before he let him go, so that everybody, he couldn't hide from it, so he couldn't just secretly be a Nazi without everybody knowing it. Of course they do. Yeah, like, oh, hey, bigots can be nice people too. Who'da thunk? People can act polite and still be pieces of shit. Like, who'd have thunk that? Couldn't, it's people, like, get tricked into thinking politeness. It's like the Cartman thing again. That's the thing is, South Park has fallen way off the rails, but there are definite points where Trey and Matt really hit on something. It's like how Simpsons isn't as nearly as good as they used to be, but every so often they will hit the nail on the head when it comes to something. And in the South Park case, it was Cartman thinking wearing a nice sweater was the same thing as being nice. And it's like, yeah, I mean, Chris Brown did the same thing when he was on his little apology tour for beating the shit out of Rihanna and putting her in the hospital. Like, yeah, pieces of shit can act nice in front of others. It's how they survive. They're not pieces of shit all the time to everybody. It's like, oh, but he wasn't racist to me, and so he must not be racist at all. It's that fallacy of like, well, they were nice, but they were so nice. They couldn't have possibly be a hateful, bigoted monster. And so, like, hateful people can't also act polite. And I think that once again comes down to just stupid monkey brain. Stupid, electrified meat sack can't differentiate between when somebody's being, the fact that bigots can also be polite to you and not everybody is always a monster whenever you interact with them. That sometimes they can hide it. And you have to look for it so that they don't get caught because they know it's bad. Exactly. Well, not specifically gaslighting. It's not specifically gaslighting as much as it's a lot of times it's just literally not, because if it was gaslighting, the bigot would also be trying to convince you, the one calling them out, that you're crazy. Like, that's the thing, is gaslighting is a very specific thing. It's not just lying, it's lying to convince somebody that they have broken from reality. That was the whole point of the play and the movie. Was that he turned off the gas light, or turned it on, and when she asked what, he lied to her to convince her that her own senses were lying to her and that her own reality was a falsehood. That's what gaslighting is. People just lying and presenting different versions of themselves, that's just lying. Now, gaslighting is a very specific instance of convincing people that they themselves are crazy and shouldn't believe their own senses. It's almost like that 1984 bit of like, just believe what the party tells you, don't believe your own eyes, ears, and other senses. But yeah, I've always been of the mindset that if I have a platform, I need to use it to be anti-racist, to be anti-bigot, to show that I do not welcome those kinds of people in my chat, in my community. Whatever little community there is. I did see that once again, like, just absolute nutters out there. Oh, new top score. This one we'll call... Gran. Nana did that. Yeah, and once again, I mean, so much of this stuff is just people acting entirely unhinged for attention and just, like, so caught up in the quote-unquote culture war that they have to, it's like that, nib comic of the guy who's just like, oh, you don't like, oh, you eat, oh, you You are a vegetarian? Look at me eating this steak. Am I triggering you? Am I triggering you? And it's like, no, dude, you're not. You're just a desperate loser who wants attention. Well, they do, because freedom of speech, freedom of religion, and because people will watch it, and things are driven by profit, not by ethics. There is no ethics under capitalism, and if the people say otherwise, then they're a filthy liar. Because if there were ethics, then none of the things that are happening under our current system would be happening. It's not an ethics-based system; it's a profit-based system. And if something gets in the way of the profit, then it gets thrown out. It's like that's the whole thing with objectivism. Basic basic empathy is not real, because people can't actually be empathetic, because if you were really empathetic, you would only care about yourself. People can't be altruistic just just out of the goodness of their heart, because that goes against the fact that I'm a selfish piece of shit. Oh, I could go off for days on Ayn Rand and how much of a dumbass piece of shit she is. Not to mention hypocritical, because she spent the last remaining years of her life on Social Security. So she got the Social Security. She took advantage of the social safety net that she railed against in her writings for years. It's almost like she's a hypocritical shit who just hates the fact that she was being dunked on by actual intellectuals. I keep losing my train of thought, man. What was I saying? Oh, but yeah, Zanebi bringing that up when my initial thread was happening is absolutely what is it? Valid. It's absolutely valid. Like, people who just want to provide a safe, welcoming, stream for people to not think about the problems of the world, that's fine. Absolutely. And in fact, in a different thread on Twitter, I mentioned that you need cases like that, because otherwise you end up with your own burnout from activism. Activism burnout is a real thing that happens to people who are trying to keep on the front lines for too long. Sometimes you just need a break. And taking a break from the woes of the world is nothing. There's nothing wrong with that. So to provide that for people is not an invalid thing. Not everybody has to be on the front line of... Yep. And Steve would probably be pissed at them. What do you mean you're trying to get the rights to my thing? Nuh-uh. Oh, those rights belong to me. You don't deserve them. Steve Ditko was a piece of, there's the whole reason Alan Moore made Rorschach how he is in Watchmen. He's basically an entire commentary on the fact that Steve Ditko's a crazy piece of shit. But, yeah, I'm at the point now where I can no longer just sit idly by. I'd rather be a platform to get those messages out rather than just another, look at the silly things, look at the silly streamer. Like, that's the thing is I feel like VTubing could be used to help educate people, to help organize people in a way that hasn't been done before. And I feel like by being solely corporatized and profit-driven and numbers-driven, that we're missing out on that opportunity to really reach out to people, educate them on serious issues, and, you know, hopefully make the world, you know, hopefully improve things in the world. You know, since VTubers are across the world, you could have international discourses. I mean, let's be real. The reason Spider-Man in the 60s was a piece of shit was because Steve Ditko wrote him. Spider-Man wasn't who we know him, how we know him today, until after Steve Ditko quit writing him, because Ditko was a piece of shit. So Spider-Man was a proto-incel. He was basically the prototypical incel when he was first in the comics in the 60s. I can't tell if it's just this file that's cutting off the bottom, or if it's something else. Oh, absolutely, because he was a crazy obsessive person. You know, Ditko was a crazy piece of shit. Hence Alan Moore's depiction of him in Watchmen through Rorschach. Man, I'm just not getting anywhere. Yeah, so yeah, but I think I always wonder if part of the reason I'm not as far ahead as I could be is because I am much more abrasive. I am much more willing to talk about these harsher topics that most VTubers aren't willing to discuss, because so much of VTubing was born out of a corporate structure, out of a profit-driven model. And when when the thing is, when you're driven solely by profit, you'll find yourselves in amongst some unsavory bedfellows, because, hey, everybody's got money. You can't turn away people with money. I mean, yeah, evil can be anonymous. Well, that's the whole thing. Is like, didn't the guy who killed Uncle Ben remain anonymous? I thought the whole point was that he never caught the guy who killed Uncle Ben, just like Batman never caught the guy who shot his parents, because he'll never get the one who he'll never get the one who caused the pain, the real pain. He can only stop the ones that show up afterwards. I mean, that was the whole. I thought that was the whole point. Yeah, like Stan Lee's got his own issues. He was a bit of a. Once again, he was a bit of a guy who took advantage of his workers, too. Let's not deny it. But for what it's worth, Stan at least knew how to write characters. Oh, for God's sakes. They made Cletus Cassidy the one who killed Uncle Ben? Boo. Boo. That's even worse than having the guy who killed... it's like... like, it's like having, like, at least having the guy who killed Uncle Ben in the movie be just a random low-life thug is better than... Did you have to unplug my computer, you little shit? I'm sorry. Was I not paying enough attention to you, you brat? Well, guess what? I'm not paying any attention to you. Fuck you. Fuck you, you brat. Yeah, jeez, like... in the movie... That's kind of why I like Sam Raimi... I like the fact that Sam Raimi didn't read Venom and Carnage didn't... You know, I guess I think the movies were before the retcon. Because I don't think Carnage... No, Carnage was out. That was the 90s. So yeah, I'm kind of glad that Sam Raimi didn't really keep up with Spider-Man comics. Because then we wouldn't have that shitty retcon of Cletus Cassidy being Ben's killer. And then it was kept to be a, you know, just random stranger. It's like when, in the 1989 Batman, where they made the Joker the one who killed Batman's parents. No, like, just have it be a random, you know, it doesn't have to be an important cathartic moment that Batman, like, if he does that, then Batman and Spider-Man basically took care of the person who took away their loved one. So then that kind of defeats the catharsis of them still fighting crime. Oh, did they actually... Wait, was he given an actual name in the comics, or... Like, the actual guy who killed Batman's parents, or... Because I thought that was another whole point, just like with Spider-Man, where, like, the death is the impetus, and he never finds the person who caused that pain, so he always has to live with it. I thought that was the point, comic book writers. God damn it. Of course, I just learned today that there's a 20-foot-tall Captain America's android with the brain of a Nazi inside of it called a Meradroid. Fucking comics, man. They're so weird. Ah, jeez. And let me guess, he finally caught Joe Chill and brought him to justice, and it didn't solve anything? Because I guess you could make that storyline work. The idea that catching the killer doesn't stop the fact that they were killed. So you've caught the killer. Now what? Do you stop being Batman, or... Like, I guess you could make that work. But I still like the fact that I still prefer the idea that, like, hey, you know, some evil is anonymous. Sometimes you just never catch the person. And you never get that moment of catharsis. So you channel that into being a better hero. So that to prevent it from happening to anybody else. I don't know, that's just me. That's the way I think in my head. Ah, boy. My brain is starting to have that pain of, like, your eyes have been focusing on this thing a whole lot. So I think we'll call it after this board. Oh, hey, the Whisk Cache is there. Oh, hey, it's an earthquake. And now he's gone. Going back to Groudon. So yeah, like, I do sometimes... I've said this recently, too, on Twitter, where I worry at times that I've put myself on a kind of blacklist for the bigger names in the community. People like the V-Shoujo girls, or the Hololive members, or the Niji Sanji members, or anybody affiliated with them. You know, anybody with a unrecognizable name in the community. I worry that I've inadvertently put myself on a blacklist of do not interact with this person. They are, you know, they are not, you know, they are somebody who is not, oh, you know, okay to talk to. They're not corporate friendly. You know, they're not. I mean, that's assuming that they'd act, that I'm big enough, that I'm worthy enough to even be worth blacklisting. But part of me wonders if me being so open about politics, about controversial topics, if me being willing to discuss these things openly, being openly supportive of trans rights. You know, it's something that's going to turn people away, and in a corporate capitalist mindset, any dollar missed is a bad thing. Ah, jeez, they should not have added the. Once again, talking about the shittiness of corporate capitalism, they should not have made the Watchmen characters canon members of the DC universe, because that defeats the whole fucking point of Watchmen. God damn it! God damn it, DC. Can you stop fucking up for once, for 5 minutes? So yeah, I do. Every so often, I worry that being as open about politics as I am, and being as more willing to tackle controversial topics, either on stream or on Twitter. Of course. So let's ruin. Yeah, let's just ruin the Superman forever. Thanks, DC. Bendis. God damn it. Because that was the whole thing, is be it nature, it's in both nature and nurture. Like, that was the whole thing, is Jor-El was a scientist! So they basically did a reversal of Goku's dad. In the first dub, they made him a scientist, and when he was actually a vicious warlord and a killer. So now Jor-El started as a brilliant scientist, literally, and was turned into a warlord. Oh, for fuck's sake. God damn it, DC. Like, I get it. You're desperate to get anybody to read your fucking comics because you basically killed them with Diamond Press and not embracing digital distribution. Diamond Publishing. And the fact that you keep putting people who have no fucking idea how the industry works in charge. But yeah, yeah, I guess I do end up worrying about if I'm doing the right thing, because at the same point, like, I'm not gonna change. If it comes down to the fact that I cannot keep talking about, the inherent evils of capitalism, or you know, how the VTubing industry is too tied into idol culture, and that idol culture is itself a very dangerous form of tying into corporate capitalism, and has its own dangerous issues. And even outside of that, it's being supportive of trans rights, being anti-racist. If doing that sort of stuff turns people away, honestly, I'd much rather they go away, because I would much rather build a community that supports trans rights, that is openly anti-racist, and that understands the ills of capitalism and doesn't buy into the corporate bullshit. Yep, I remember that. I remember they added in the Watchmen characters and made them canon after Rebirth, as part of Rebirth, because they finally got the rights to them. Or some, you know, or like, there was some hurdle that they finally got the access to them, and so they wanted to make them canon members of the DC universe. God damn it, DC. Quit fucking up for 5 minutes. Yeah, I just rather... You know, I don't mind turning people away if they're the kind of people that would be upset that I support trans rights, or I support, you know, other members of the LGBT community, and you know, I'm openly I try to be anti-racist. You know, I'm pushing back. You know, that I'm pushing back against the established structures in place. I don't mind. Yeah, that's a matter of DC trying to put, like, they should just be like, that's the whole thing, is the HBO series managed to actually understand the basic points of Watchmen. They understood that Rorschach was the bad guy. They wasn't supposed to be the hero. Fucking Zack Snyder thinking Rorschach's the hero. Jesus Christ. That tells you all you need to know about Zack Snyder right there, is dude thinks Rorschach is the hero of Watchmen. I mean, that's the thing, is Alan Moore made Watchmen as his critique of Golden Age and Silver Age and the current state of comics. They're his take on the DC characters and on actual creators in the DC universe. Exactly. He's fucking Ayn Rand's objective is he's a fucking Steve Ditko parody. The whole point is that it wasn't supposed to be part of the canon DC universe, because it misses the point of Watchmen. But let it not be known that executives can entirely miss the point of something. You know... Well, yeah, and Ditko created the question to promote his objectivist philosophy. So the question is inherently... part of... you know, essentially... Is it essentially a... extension of Ditko himself. And it's just, they've managed to make... And once again... They've managed to make the question work because they've taken away all of the bullshit that Ditko put into them. Like with everything Ditko helped create, it's only good after you took everything that Ditko put into it from himself about it. You took away every piece of objectivist bullshit that Ditko put into the character, and they're actually an interesting, compelling characters. Like the fact that Renee Montoya becomes the question at one point. Like, that's interesting. More so than fucking Steve Ditko being like, but how come government bad? Of course he was. Because Steve Ditko's a fucking crazy person. Yeah, I just am at the point where it's like, I don't, like, part of me wants to get bigger, but if it not at the expense of, you know, not necessarily like, quote, selling out, but like selling out my like beliefs, like to stop talking about these issues, like to have somebody say, well, you can't talk about that. That is one of the things that has kept me. No, I basically barely read any comics. Everything I know about comics, I read on wikis. Because because I never had a comic book shop near me, I had no means of keeping up with comics growing up. So I only started getting into comics when it was a digital medium, and then Amazon bought Comixology and made it impossible to use on the iPhone, so fuck it. Thanks, Amazon, you Jeff Bezos, you piece of shit. But yeah, most of the Doctor Strange stuff was a bit of an acid trip. That was kind of the whole point behind it. Come on. Come on. You know, I said this would be the last board, and yet I'm still going. Like, I think I've still got 2, maybe 3 lives left. It's hard to tell because this file is cut off most of the, like, the very edge of the stuff. But yeah, like if I sign up for one of those VTuber management companies to manage my channel, I get the feeling that I would immediately have to stop talking about how bad capitalism is, or they'd make me get a separate account to talk about that, and I couldn't talk about it on my main account, which kind of defeats the purpose of why I want to talk about it, because I have the platform to talk about it. Oh, I didn't realize that Yu-Gi-Oh! Was on Amazon Prime. I'll have to remember that. I thought it was on Hulu last I checked. Come on. Yeah, like if I had to stop talking about the ills of capitalism, if I had to stop talking about supporting trans rights, if I had to stop talking about, you know, piece of shit politicians and calling out racism, bigotry in order to grow as a channel, I kind of don't want to grow then, because at that point, then what would be the point of growing if all it meant was I would be allowing pieces of shit into my community? It's like that anecdote goes. You know, you have 10 people sitting at a table with one Nazi. You got 11 Nazis sitting at the table. You go to a bar. You know, the guy sitting at the bar, and the bartender sees a Nazi come in, grabs his bat, and says, "You get the hell out of here." And But they're not. I mean, they're not anti it. They're just pro money. It's like I was saying. There is no ethics under capitalism. You will take whoever's money you can get. And if anti-choice, bigoted politicians want to give you money to show their ads, then you'll take it. Yeah, natural growth is more sustainable ultimately. And I'd rather build the kind of community that I would actually like to be around rather than one that's just fleeting and only there, not even for me to a point. I think that's kind of the reason why I didn't like being in a lot of the bigger corporate VTuber and like bigger name VTuber Discord servers. I mean, for one thing, they were super hard to keep up with. That's the other thing I started doing is for Discord servers, I actually muted all but like 3 of the servers I'm in, so that I don't feel overwhelmed in trying to keep up with everything. And that way I can just keep up naturally and at my own pace. Exactly. But like, I think the most fun I had in a big VTubers server was in Silver Veils, but even then it just became impossible to keep up with all the stuff going on in the server because just everything is going on. There are so many members. It got to the point where it's just like, if there's over 1,000 members, I kind of don't want to be in the server because I can't keep up with all that. It's just eventually becomes noise after a certain point. And I think by switching it over to this muted setup where I only get notified if there are major announcements and then I can keep up with the servers at my own pace, then I should be good. That way I don't feel like obligated to constantly keep up with the stream of information that's always coming through. But I'm gonna see if muting him is gonna work overall, because I know a couple of them I'm a mod in, so I can't mute those. But I just got sick of feeling overwhelmed by the constant stream of updates coming in from these servers, and so I just had to mute. So I'm gonna try muting them, and that way I can just not be obligated to try and keep up, and more just keep up at my own pace. It's not an obligation. It shouldn't be. Ultimately, that's what overwhelmed me about when I modded for this one VTuber who went and joined a company and got super big. Not like huge, but, you know, definitely sustainably big. You know, corporates, you know, small for corporate, but big for, like, an indie corporate. Yeah. But I got overwhelmed trying to keep up, and as a mod, I did have to try and keep up, and I just wasn't fun anymore, and I do wonder how she's doing and how that community is doing. I'm sure they're fine. It's just, not gonna lie, part of me does wish that somebody reached out to see if I was okay, because it feels like me just leaving as abruptly as I did, and the fact that nobody said anything makes it feel like nobody cares and nobody is interested in how I'm doing. And I know that's not the case, but I'm also not, like I'm not gonna be the one to go to them and say, "Hey, did you guys miss me?" Because that would seem really callous and really shallow. But there is a part of me that wonders, like, do they even care if I'm okay? And it's not like I don't believe they do sort of thing. It's more like nobody has said anything, so what am I supposed to think? Like, if nobody has said anything, then do they care, or is it something like, can they even talk about it? Is there a moratorium on me? Like, am I persona non grata over there now? I don't know. I don't know what the case is. Because nobody has said anything to me, so I have no idea if I'm persona non grata, if they do wonder if I'm okay, and they just don't think to reach out to me, because I know the one person, the actual streamer themselves, has the means of contacting me, but I'm wondering if maybe they don't care. Like, maybe they don't care if I'm okay because they've just got so much other shit going on. And they can't focus on whether or not I'm okay. So my mental well-being is not on... And I wouldn't want them to have to deal with that. Like, my mental well-being is my own problem. And they shouldn't have to check up on me to see if I'm okay mentally as their moderator. Like, I know some streamers do have that relationship with their mods. But we didn't really have that kind of relationship. Come on. Haha! Gotcha! You know, whether or not I'm okay is not part of their concern. And that's just how it is. It's just how our relationship as moderator and streamer worked out. But it just feels like, you know, the fact that it's been the better part, you know, it's been like, what, 5 months? No. God, it feels like forever. But I left, I think I left prior to my anniversary. So it's been at least 2, maybe 3 months. And the fact that, like, nobody has said anything to me. Nobody has sent me a DM. Nobody has sent me you know, like a message, a tweet, or something on Discord saying, hey, hope you're doing okay. You know, nothing like, no well wishes, no... Ah, yes, I love it. I love when that happens. Let's see if we can make it happen again. Nah, too soon. Nah, we're not gonna make it happen again. Oh, well. Yeah, it just feels like, how valued was I as a member of that community if literally nobody has reached out about my well-being since I left? Yeah, it's hard to say. I think I think they did enjoy me being there and how much I was able to help as a moderator when they were indie, and then when they were corporate, I think things just went faster than I was able to keep up with. You know, they were growing faster than I could keep up with, and I think I was just tired. You know, they're just, after a certain point, you juggle so many plates, you have to let some of them go. But then that's another thing that makes me wonder, like, how many of these, like the person in question, I keep trying to keep it anonymous and use They, but it's she. It was a she. Ooh! I caught the ground! Yeah, she has connections and is networked with other corporate VTubers. So like, do they talk? Do they mention the fact that I just ghosted as a moderator and just completely gave the traditional Irish goodbye and just noped out of there? You know, how, like, what are, you know, I think it's the concern that a lot of people have, that just, like, how are people viewing you when you're not around? And I think, for the most part, I've managed to cultivate a sense of, I'm, you know, like, of how I usually am. The idea that I am a genuinely empathetic and caring person for the most part, unless you're a piece of shit, and then I have no sympathy for you. And I wonder if maybe because I'm not the best at always being like that some people view me more as a weirdo, as more of somebody who's just not, you know, somebody who's not good at communicating, somebody who's a bad moderator. I mean, the other VTubers I moderate for haven't seemed to have a problem with me and my moderation. The fact that I can't always be there. Hi, Totodile. It's just, I don't know. I think it's just always my concern that something's going. You know, I think part of it is, and I think part of it is that there's a little bit of me that is a bit paranoid. I think part of that comes from the fact that I've had, like, I do have a bit of trauma from a point where this dude was actively, like, there was a bit of, I don't know if I've ever told this story, where I was actively, you know, chased after a bit of road rage. And the guy, like, was specifically following my car, and I found out by turning onto a side street and getting crashed into. So I kind of have a little bit of paranoia about that sort of thing, just like people coming after me, but I don't realize it. I don't think anybody's actively coming after me that I'm aware of. Like, nobody has come forward and say, like, hey, these people are talking about you behind your back, spreading rumors. There hasn't been anything like that, thankfully. I've managed to avoid that level of high school shit from the community. But I just can't help but feel like that I am ultimately, like, seen as a pariah of some kind, that because I'm not able to quote-unquote be polite, once again, going back to that guy having dinner with the Waffen-SS officers, you know, because these Nazis were able to play nice, they were seen as good people, when politeness is not the same thing as being good. Ah, damn it, I missed him. Get back here, Aaron. Got him. You know, once again, the Cartman sweater thing. Wearing a nice sweater doesn't mean you're a nice person. But so I can't help but feel like because I'm more vocal about these sorts of things, and it's very anti-corporate to exactly. Some people just aren't really your friends. They're just there because you're convenient. You know, you're a convenient asset to them in the time being for the time being. You're beneficial to their existence for this time being. But, yeah, I just can't help but have this feeling that, like, because I don't play nice with corporate, with corporate capitalism and with idol culture and with that, with a lot of the more, a lot of those big parts of the community that I'm like somebody to not be, not so much welcomed, but like trusted around. Like, don't try to engage too much with this guy. In actuality, I don't think anybody genuinely knows me enough to really give a shit that I'm an anti-capitalist, that I'm an anti-racist, and I refuse to allow shit from, bigots. And, like, I call out fucking Nazis and fascists at the drop of a hat. Yeah, it's this. And thankfully I have started building a circle of peers that do agree with me that these issues are important and that they shouldn't be. I think that's the interesting thing. That's the thing you'll notice a lot of the times is trans streamers and content creators will bring up trans issues because it is directly personal to them. BIPOC, non-white streamers will bring up race because it is relevant to them and it affects them directly. Meanwhile, nobody else outside of those communities brings up those issues. Well, there it went. Exactly. Alrighty, last fancy name. We're going to say Thick. There we go. Alrighty. I'm gonna start calling it. It's been almost 3 hours and my brain is starting to hurt right behind my eyeballs. So let me get back to the main library. Sweet. We'll go raid Curious Cleffa again. Next, set the music up and running. Last thing I wanted to finish my thought of just that. I am starting to, that's kind of why I find it important to talk about these things as somebody who's not a direct member of the community. That way it's to say that, hey, we should have these discussions not just because they affect us directly, but because they affect others as well. And they affect people we care about. So maybe we should care about them too, Alrighty. Let's go see what Cleffa's doing. God, I'm following so many channels, I can't keep up. Let's see. What is... Where is Cleffa? Where is Cleffa? I know I follow them. I followed them last time we raided. Hold on, I think I need to refresh. Let's see. Where are they? Where's Cleffa? I can never tell if she's near the... if they're near the top or near the bottom of my stream list. Because I know I followed them. Where is Cleffa? If I don't find them from my live list, then I'll just search them out. Yeah, I'm not seeing them. God damn it. Thankfully, they're in my recent history. I'm pretty sure I followed them. I did not follow them. That's my bad. That would be why they weren't showing up. Okay. Let's get that raid started. So yeah, we're gonna return to KOTOR tomorrow. And then this rest of the schedule is up on... I should make a command for the schedule, too. I'll probably do that sometime tomorrow or between streams. But yeah, keeping the schedule as is. Wednesday is KOTOR. Thursday is Cuphead. Friday we're gonna start the Ash Ketchum challenge for Shield. And then we return to Gold on Saturday. So... I might do something else for the next Zapsodon. I kind of want to actually start learning Blender, so I might use these streams to kind of just play around in Blender and learn the ins and outs of it. So yeah, thanks Ben for tuning in. Thanks anybody for hopping in. But for now, I've got to tune out. We'll see y'all.